thank you for joining me. You're watching Esther from Stampin' Star Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in the UK. Today we're going to be using Highland Heather, Coastal Cabana, Melon Mambo and Very Vanilla cardstock. And this is for a Facebook colour challenge, and we're using the Jar of Love stamp set. I'm using an A4 sheet of Very Vanilla, and we're going to be scoring it at 5 7/8, and then pushing it back and scoring it at 2 7/8. So once we've done these score lines, we're going to turn it to the short side and then cut down the middle, so then this will give you 2 Z-fold cards. So we're going to cut that at 4 1/8. So fold the card back on itself to create the Z-fold and then just burnish it. So I know people all have folded the card back without measuring and scoring, but I just find that it gives a nicer crease. I actually decided to add another colour, and this is grey granite, and I'm going in with the Stamparatus because I can just position all my jars where I want them and space them out so that I can go and cut them out later. I did actually go ahead and stamp 2 sets of the jars. Later I realised I'm not going to need all of them. Add in some jar lids and then a bow, which I use in Melon Mambo. I'm using the little spot from the set, and we're going to be filling our jars with some gumballs. So I try and do this as randomly as possible and not to be too precise, leaving enough gaps to add the 2 other colours that I want in on the jars as well. Just using my Shammy to clean off the stamp because we're going to be using this again in the next colour. I'm trying to decide which colour to go for next because I wasn't sure whether to use the lighter colour or the darker, but I've gone for tried to go for the fairly darker colours first because just for visual reasons, I think your eyes get drawn to the darker colours. So again, trying to be as random as possible, not worrying too much about gaps, because remember, when sweets fill a jar there will be gaps in the jar, but trying to make it look as mixed as possible at the same time. So the last colour we go in is with our Coastal Cabana, and these managed to fit into those slots nicely. If I felt that it was going to overlap, then I just left the gap and I moved on elsewhere. This is where I realised that not all of the jars have the dies to be able to create that shaker card and the inside bit cut out from the dies. So I decided to just go ahead and make the shaker card out of the largest jar. I used the coordinating card. Our punches are sturdy enough to take 2 lots of card in one go, so I'm using the 1/4 inch punch, circle punch, and going ahead and cutting out some circles. I think I did about 7 of each colour. I used the window sheet to cut out, run that through the die cutting machine, and use that goes through the window sheet no problem. So I'm using tear and tape to attach the window sheet, and then I'm snipping the tear and tape in half in order to be able to get the side bits stuck down and the base of the jar. Just peel off your backing and then you can attach the window sheet. I don't think there's a right or wrong way in which this should go. Just try and align it as best as you can, because that tape is very strong, so once it's stuck down it will stick. There was a tiny bit of hanging off the edge which you can just trim with your scissors. Going in with the foam strips, I decided that I was going to cut these down into smaller pieces to make it more manageable, but I don't know if it would have made much of a difference, to be honest. What you do want to make sure is that all the gaps are filled. It's not so bad again with these bigger circle shapes, but particularly with smaller seed beads and things like that, you do want to make sure your gaps are filled. It's great because with these foam strips you can just bend it around the corners. So I didn't place an exact number inside, I just sprinkled a few of the circles inside. I think I made sure there was an odd number just to make it look a bit more realistic. Make sure they're all in the centre before sticking down your top layer jar. Trying to carefully align it before going in and sticking it, and I can't stop shaking it once they're in. It's quite addictive. And then I just add on the lid, and I decided I was going to use the bow on this larger jar as well. Okay, I've cut some Melon Mambo, which is 4.5 inches by 3 1/4, and then another layer of Coastal Cabana at 4 1/4 by 3 inches. Then using the Highland Heather, I've cut a circle out of 1 3/4 inch punch. Using a scrap of Very Vanilla and the Highland Heather, I'm going to stamp the sentiment from Jar of Love. And using the 1 1/2 inch punch to punch that out, and that will just nest nicely into the larger circle. I decided with the leftover circles I would line them up and put them along the edge to create a fun border. So this is where the pickup tool comes in handy. Just putting down a blob of multipurpose glue and using the pickup tool. And the great thing about this combination is it gives you a chance to wiggle them around before you're happy to let them set into place. Then just glue all the other layers together. So I decided I wanted the sentiment in the back, so I just used the multipurpose glue to stick that down, and I've put the middle jar straight down as well with the glue, just to add different levels of dimension. I use my dimensionals to stick down the smallest jar, and then obviously that largest jar has got dimension already in it, so I just go ahead and stick that down with some multipurpose glue. I was toying with the idea of adding more detail to the card. It just looked as if something was missing, and I couldn't decide what to do, and I thought, oh, do I, don't I? And I thought, let's do it. So I go ahead again and stamp some more spots just on that front panel. So I've got a rough piece of paper underneath to protect the rest of the card. So again, doing it random but a little bit more spaced out to create a fun spotty feel. And I think it turned out great. I was really pleased I actually decided to do the dots. Now I'm putting my finger down in place so that I know where half of the card is, and gives me a guide as to where to glue it. So you're only gluing 1/2 of that card onto the front of the project. I felt like that sentiment was still feeling a bit blank, so I went ahead and added more spots in and just stuck that over the existing sentiment. And there's our finished card. I hope you've enjoyed the shaker card. Do comment below if you've made a shaker card before. Subscribe to my channel for more videos and give me a thumbs up if you've liked the video. Have a good day. Thank you. bye.